Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Make Japa Great Again. It's a feature of Krishna's teachings in the Bhagavad Gita when he describes how one should prepare oneself in the lifespan that one has when he uses the word abhyasa. Abhyasa yoga yuktena cetasa nanyagamina paramam purusham divyam yati partanu chintayan. And the word means that one should repeatedly do the same practice again and again. And of all the practices that are recommended, the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra is the topmost. Out of all the 64 items of devotional service, 5 are most prominent and powerful, and of those 5, the chanting of the holy name can complete all of them. And in the teachings that Lord Chaitanya gave about chanting the holy name of the Lord, the topmost of all his teachings are that one should cultivate humility. And he described it as being ready to give respect to others without expecting anything in return as a practice. And also to feel oneself as low as a blade of grass. He also describes, in his own words, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, in the Shikshashtakam, that somehow or other I've fallen. So one who considers oneself to be a very humble person, to be unworthy but grateful, and also respectful of others, but not expecting respect in return, and certainly not for one's spiritual acumen. Just considering that whatever abilities I have, either mentally, physically, or spiritually, are all the grace of the Lord. And it's such an important instruction that Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita says, dear devotees, take this instruction and make it into a necklace and then wear it around your neck. And that means, metaphorically, that one should apply it in all circumstances, wherever one goes, make it prominent. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Shikshashtakam describes a condition that one may develop, that although chanting the holy name of the Lord, one may not have attraction. And he says, Durdaivam idrishami hajani nanuragaha. That because of this, I consider myself very unfortunate. Durdaivam means something like star-crossed. Like there's some force in the universe that's preventing me from taking advantage of this opportunity. And then he gives the antidote. Be humble. That's amazing. Who knew that humility could open the doors to our connection to Krishna in the most intimate way possible, which is by repeating his holy names. The holy name is described as being the sweetest of all sweet things. And chanting it is the most consequential of all activities. But still, I take it as dry as some sawdust. Or I think of it as perhaps some kind of hyperbole. And all these can be overcome if one very humbly approaches the holy name, considers oneself to be lower than the straw in the street, more humble than a blade of grass, ready to give respect to others and not expecting anything in return. Because after all, Lord Chaitanya gives this advice just after he says, I'm so unfortunate that I can't take this. So he said, here's how to enter into the chanting so that one can appreciate it. It's be very, very humble. So we can enter into today's session with this mood. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives Trinad api sunichena, toror api sahishnuna, amanina, manadena, kirtaniya sadahare. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna. Since we're talking about humility, I'll just say a few more things as a meditation or as subject matter for meditation. And humility means that we accurately see that any ability that I have, any asset that I have, any feature that I have that's noteworthy, it comes from Krishna. It's not mine. And this is what Kunti Devi calls a kinchana. She says that one should realize that on my own I don't have anything. Kinchana means I don't have anything at all. Whatever comes to me is by Krishna's grace. Humility. Arjuna exhibited humility when he fought in Kurukshetra. So humility doesn't mean that we withdraw from all circumstances and situations and become a doormat for others. Arjuna certainly wasn't a doormat. He asserted himself, but he asserted himself on behalf of Krishna. So humility means to accept that whatever ability I have comes from Krishna, and that I'm not acting according to my own whims, but I'm acting according to the direction of Krishna through the Guru Parampara. Another aspect of humility is mentioned in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Narada Muni, and he says that utter humility, called dainya, always accompanies prema. When one's advancing in devotional service, one can understand this by one's increasing sense of humility or dependence on Krishna's power, not one's own power, on Krishna's intelligence, not one's own intelligence. And there is no case in which one attains prema without dainya. The two, he says, go hand in hand. They're always synonymous. And one can see in oneself, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in describing the 9 symptoms of bhava to Sanatana Goswami, says one of the symptoms of bhava, or an increasing emotion for Krishna, is that the devotee feels him or herself more and more incompetent. It doesn't mean that that person becomes incompetent. It means that he feels himself unworthy and incompetent. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exhibited humility as recounted by Kaviraj Goswami in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, once when he was experiencing some devotional trance in ecstasy, and the devotees revived him, brought him back to his external consciousness by chanting Hare Krishna, and Mahaprabhu had been in a state of rapture. There were tears coming from his eyes, and he asked the devotees around him, did I exhibit any unusual symptoms? And they said that you did. And he said, if I made any declaration of humility, he said, you can take it as false. He said, I'm not humble at all. He said, I only show these symptoms of ecstasy as a means of pride, or an exhibition of pride to show my great fortune. He said, but I'm actually the most unfortunate. And he said that if I was actually humble, then I wouldn't be able to live. But he said, contrary to that, I go on maintaining my insect-like existence because of my great pride. So humility may not be what we think it is. It's not necessarily a mental exercise, even though we're asked by both Narada Muni and the Brihad Bhagavatamrita and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Shikshashtakam to practice humility. But humility is reality. It's an awareness of our complete dependence on Krishna. We're his part and parcel. Even a molecule of humility, when we're able to enter into that state of mind, as it's translated in the Shikshashtakam, then it opens the pathway for our progress in devotional service, especially chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Mahaprabhu says that you can go on chanting. if you're humble. And if you're not, if you start thinking that I'm self-determining, all these assets are mine, I'm a great devotee, I'm chanting great rounds and so forth, then we're locking ourselves out from entering deeply within the relationship we have with Krishna through chanting the holy name of the Lord. Let's just see if there's two reflections, one from this side, one from that side. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. On the first point you mentioned about recognizing all abilities come from Krishna. We were just hearing a lecture by His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj a couple of days ago, where when Narada Muni asked Brahma, are you the creator? And then Brahma says, no, I'm not the creator, there's somebody above me. When Maharaj was explaining the point, he was going at great lengths to explain how great Brahma is first. And then he says, if Brahma doesn't take credit for what he does, what are you taking credit for? So I remember that point when you said that. So we can always remember, if Brahma, after engineering the entire universe and creating everything, doesn't take credit, and we take credit for something so small that we have done, so that can bring us humility.
And that's, Yash, I guess we'll take two from the side. Something Prabhupada repeated over and over again, he never took credit for what he was doing. He gave credit to his spiritual master, he gave credit to his disciples. In writing his books, you'll see at the end of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he offers the credit to Pradyumna, to Jayadvaita. He goes through a list, they're all doing it. In several other expressions, he talks about spreading the movement, how it's, I'm not doing, my disciples are doing, and always defers. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I really liked what you said in the beginning about humility is not necessarily being a doormat, but rather it's knowing that everything comes from Krishna. Any ability I have, it comes from Krishna. Any opulence I have, it comes from Krishna. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, this is actually mentioned, Parusham Nishu, I'm the ability in man. And in this context, the example I always think of is Arjuna. In the Bhagavad Gita, he's described as this great warrior. He's Mahabhahu, he's the topmost warrior, he's a great archer. But then in the Srimad Bhagavatam, I think the first canto, 15th chapter, I think that's when he, at the onset of Kali, Arjuna comes back and Yudhishthira is asking him, what happened? What's the state of the Yadu dynasty? How is Krishna? How is everyone there? And Arjuna replies and says how he's kind of lost all his strength. He went into a battle and he was defeated, and all of that is because Krishna is not there anymore. So that's always a reminder of that. It's a lesson that I hope to remember more and more, that everything I have is ultimately from Krishna, and I should learn to be grateful and humble about that.
Excellent citations, thank you. Okay, two from this side then. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking along the lines of, with humility, as you go through the path of bhakti, it's really, everything becomes rigged in favor of your success. And as in the material world, we're on this machine that's just heading us forward. When we choose to have Krishna on that path and give everything to him, you know, every attempt brings us closer. Every moment we practice pushes us forward infinitely to a point where we can't even understand how much closer we get to the purpose of life. And I was thinking about, I was like, how is it that every time, you know, you think of Krishna, it washes away sins, even if you were someone absolutely terrible in a past life. But from the material conception, it's very difficult to understand that. But from understanding it as far as Krishna is the point of this life, is the point of all of our lives, then it really makes sense that if we keep submitting ourselves and surrendering ourselves to Krishna, then everything we does have purpose, and nothing we don't actually do much, actually. We just continue on the path, we continue finding our purpose, and we continue finding bhakti.
Yes, that's a nice point. One more, because even our spiritual advancement, the devotee depends on Krishna for, and doesn't think, oh, I'm such a great devotee, but thinks Krishna's given me something I don't deserve. una más. Yes.
Hare Krishna. I was thinking about how even sawdust, if we chew it long enough, it could become sweet. But then I realized that factually the holy name is sweet, and factually I am unable to perceive its sweetness. Unlike in the material world, when my consciousness is transformed, I can perceive something differently to use it in service, but the holy name is what transforms the consciousness. So by contact with the holy name, I become transformed. So even if I perceive it as sawdust now, the important thing is to continue hearing, because I'm chanting so that I can hear the holy name, by which the name, the form, the qualities, the glories are all revealed. And if I go through this process, then eventually, hopefully, there's yogurt. And the point of that is to take a sample from that culture to add to different milk to create more yogurt.
Yes, and of course the quintessential example is given by Rupa Goswami in Upadeshamrita when he says that chanting well, covered by material faults, may seem bitter, but it's, as you were saying, it's coming from our own ineptitude. But he says, as you said, keep chanting, because that's like medicine. And he gives the example of jaundice. When you have jaundice and you taste something sweet, it tastes bitter. But the curative is sugarcane juice, and if you keep drinking the sugarcane juice, as you're getting cured, you gradually taste the sweetness. It's an important metaphor to remember. And hearing from the great devotees who write about the holy name is also helpful, because it reminds us, no, the sweetness is there, and we have to continue taking it in order to cure ourselves of our own impurities so that we can taste the holy name. Thank you. We'll try again. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare